And when we got there, and he got Twiggy over from South Africa, so he's caught it early. And when we got there, it was just a massive, incredibly big day. Like people go, "Oh, this is the biggest day ever." I don't know. Like I've been to a lot, been there a lot, and this was just huge. But Ant-Man got a 2-wave hold down at that stage, and pretty much, if it wasn't him, I'd say someone else could have drowned for sure. And just being out there solo, it's just so different. Like you're the only one in the channel, so you're the rescue, you're the eyes, you're the photographer, you're everything, and then just one tow team. That's pretty amazing. And that happened. It happened a couple of times. Happened with Alfie Cater and Dave Dalroy as well. We had a session like that, a really big day where it was just that setup. And I find that kind of special because you're the only one with those shots.
Hello, welcome to Speaking From Water, episode 41. I'm your host, Shot Ord. This podcast is coming to you in collaboration with A Classic. Today, we have a legendary, world-renowned photographer on the line. He's here to tell us all about his journey from firefighter to professional photographer, his days in the magazines, to his debut as a world-renowned artist. He is best known for his work in slab photography from Western Australia and in the lineup at the famous Wright, which is north of Perth. He is on the line, and this podcast was recorded yesterday. The podcast almost was lost in time as a recording mishap occurred. We were able to recover the majority of it. However, the first 10 minutes of this podcast was lost. In that 10 minutes, Russell described his early life in Perth, growing up, riding his bike to the beach, becoming very familiar with the ocean, his love of the ocean, and then his career in professional rugby. He then discusses the firefighting that he did and what it taught him as far as being calm under pressure. We pick up this podcast when he leaves the firefighting union in Perth and decides to go on to become a full-time professional surf photographer. We join this podcast now. Thank you for listening. Do not forget to subscribe, like, and follow. Enjoy.
Yeah, well, I was just going through the motions for probably, it would have had to been 19 years. You go to a lot of road accidents, house fires, a lot of deaths, some more than others. You can have a spate of fatalities where you might go to 3 or 4 a week and then you don't go to any for years. It's just hit and miss. But you just go through the motions, you do your job and you just let it go. But I remember being going to a car accident once, and it's just another car accident. We all go to them, and I was like the medical part of things, like patient care on that, because your job changes depending where you are on the truck. And yeah, just sitting underneath the car, helping this girl get through it who was dying in front of me. And I just sort of started reflecting on my own life. It was quite weird. Like it was like I was having an out of body experience. Like normally you get the job done, you go back, you have a few laughs, you have sort of black humor to get through it. And then, but yeah, that time I was just thinking, what was I doing under here? And then started reflecting on her life, on how she got here. And, if she had breakfast for an extra 10 seconds, she'd still be alive, and all the people that it affects. And then I just made the switch to full-time photography from that moment.
And how long had you been a firefighter before that incident?
19 years. Yeah, so I was doing photography and firefighting at the same time. So it was kind of roughly at the same. Probably got in the fire brigade and picked up a camera about 2 years later. So I was doing a bit of both, and which was so good. It took a lot of pressure off you too, because you had an income. You didn't have the pressures of trying to force the photography. And that was it. And just did the full change to full-time photography, which has been like that for now probably 10 or 11 years.
So to chronologically get my mind into where we are right now, the late 2000s is when you went full time.
Yeah, so I got in the fire brigade when I was 20, and I would have done 19 years, so up until 39. And then I quit because of that incident, and then took up the photography, which is now 11 years ago. So I'm turning 50 this year.
Crazy. Now take us back, because I've heard you say that you're a surfer first, and surfing is really what you're even more passionate about than your photography. Is that true?
Yeah, I love to surf. I'd rather surf any day of the week than take photos, for
Incredible.
sure.
Yeah, I can relate. So you're in the fire brigade and you're a surfer. You're stoked on your position in life. What brought you to the camera?
I just got injured surfing, sort of did my knee once again, not major, it wasn't like a surgery related injury, and decided to pick up a camera to take photos of mates. A friend sort of just said to me, "Can you come down the beach? You're doing nothing apart from sitting on the couch. Can you come and take a few images?" And so I did that, and it was film back then, so it was a very hit and miss, and it wasn't really that good at the start. Nothing is. And I didn't really fall in love with it because you're not really having a moment. You're sitting on the beach and shooting, but it got me out of the house. But then I borrowed a water housing off someone, and then sort of fell in love with the feeling of photography from that. I mean, I'm not a creative guy. I never did art at school. I was pretty average at all that sort of. I was very sporty. So this was kind of a job that suited me because I'd surfed. I had a lot of experience in the ocean, and picking up a camera and swimming wasn't sort of that difficult. I mean, the camera was difficult, but the ocean part I'd already had up until then, 10, 15 years of surfing experience.
You knew your beaches, you knew where all the rocks were, so it was a thing of just a natural progression. Now, what I'm very want to hone in on here is the transfer, because you lived in a very special time between film and digital. What was it that went, like when you went to digital, was that a difficult thing, or how did that go?
Oh, it wasn't that difficult. I sort of made the decision early to go digital, and I felt it was the wrong decision. So I went digital early, thinking the writing was on the wall. Started shooting digital, couldn't really get in. The magazines weren't accepting digital. Went back to film, and by the time I went back to film, they'd all wanted digital copies. You used to send in your slides. You weren't sending them over the internet or anything like that. So it was. I probably wasted a lot of money. I could have just held off for a few more months, 6 months to 8 months, and then just gone from film to digital. So, but yeah, it wasn't a hard transition. It was quite. You have to evolve in this game. Like you learn that on the go. Like everything evolves. It's
Was
quick.
this
The technology fires away, doesn't it?
Yeah, so was this like in the late 90s, early 2000s?
Oh no, it was probably yeah, late 90s, 90, 99, yeah, 2000, I'd say.
Incredible. So at that time, you're already getting shots that you feel that are worthy enough to submit to magazines. Magazines are on the trajectory up. They're going up and up. That's where the industry is looking. When you started taking what you thought were really good photos, how did that arc begin as far as finding your style?
Well, I would just like it. I didn't send an image to a magazine. I would probably been shooting for 4 years on film before I even sent one shot in. And it's very easy to compare yourself. Like you can see, you you can see, you pick up any magazine back in the day, and you're like, I'm not taking photos like that. I'm not actually as good as that. What's the point in sending in a shot? But I did get a shot of probably towards the end of the 4 year or 5 year, I call it an apprenticeship, of Tom Innes out at North Point on an absolute bomb day. And no one was really swimming out there at that stage. And yeah, just was in the spot, got lucky, got the shot and sent it in, and yeah, got printed double page. I think it was sort of up for the cover, but everyone's up for a cover, as I've learnt, and it just became a double page, and I thought, oh, that was good. So you see people like now, they'll be shooting for 10 minutes and they're wondering why they're not getting exposure. It just takes time. And I knew what my place. You got to know that you got to have the right surfer, right spot, right conditions, and it's easy to compare yourself with others, especially now. I mean, you just can look on social media and think, Jesus, I've got a lot to go before I'm up to that standard.
Yeah, I'd like your opinions on that here in a little bit when we get to kind of modern times. But while we're here in the past, um, the surfer in you, I encounter this in my own work. You know, like it's when it's good, you want to be surfing, but in those early years when you're really like you're not established yet, how did you force yourself to step back and take pictures? Did you go surfing first? Did you always like bring your camera to the beach and your surfboard? What was the mental game plan?
Yeah, it was both. I'd always shoot first because I was loving it. I was love swimming out. There was because you're learning every single second. Basically, everything was like you're shooting on spec, so you're just shooting whatever's coming up. A roll of film, you got 36 shots, and you wouldn't even use the whole roll because you've got to pay for it, and you're just looking for images. And I felt that was amazing. And it's always a good feeling, you've been out in pretty solid waves, swimming around on your own and just trying to get shots. So I thought that was a great feeling. And then when the surfers would go in, then I would surf. I could do it back then. I tend not to do it now. It's just too difficult. Like swimming for 2 or 3 hours and then trying to surf, it's just like, oh, I think I'm past it. So I'll tend to surf first and shoot later. Or I only really shoot surf if it's a job. So if there's a job on, I'm focused on the job. If there's no job on, I'm not shooting to get better. I'm not shooting for practice. So back then, you're practicing all the time. You're trying to get better. You see shots in magazines that you go like, oh, how did they get that shot? I want to get that shot and see if you can do it. So you're always pushing yourself.
So at that time, what were those shots that really got you stoked to want to get that particular shot?
Was always water shots, always, because I just felt like that's what surf photography is. You're submerged in all the elements, and it'd be like taking a shot of the NFL or the footy, and you're on the field in amongst it. It's such a good feeling, and as a surfer, that's what you're experiencing all the time. You're going out, you're doing breath holds, you're ducking under waves, you're sort of pushing yourself in the elements, and that's why I thought those shots were amazing.
And I'm looking at your magazine pictures from back in this time period, and it looks like a lot of fisheye work. Is that your was that your go-to lens?
Yeah, I probably made the mistake of just doing that for pretty much the straight 10 years just because it was so enjoyable. Like
And
it was for me, it was having that moment as well.
right, and for those listening that don't understand what a fisheye is, when you're shooting a fisheye, you have to be as close to the subject as possible, which makes what's going on extremely difficult to get in these critical positions. And when you first were using this fisheye, was that like abruptly apparent that like you needed to get almost to the surfboard to get your work done?
Yeah, you knew as soon as you got the first lot of slides back, you knew how bad you were and how good those other guys were, like Scott Eight now, like under the lit at pipe shooting that. It's quite incredible. It's an amazing position to be in. Yeah, you learn pretty quickly how close you have to be. And it
And
doesn't really take photography talent, to be honest. I mean, you got to know what the camera can do. It takes a lot of swimming talent and ocean talent, and more like a sports orientated talent than being super creative.
love it. And who else can you shout out as inspirations during that time period of the canon of legends?
Yeah, Scotty was amazing. I used to just love his work, and it's a shame that he probably fell off the radar when digital came, and just got annoyed with probably the influx of people like myself with heaps of different crew. Um, Mickey Smith was pretty amazing. He didn't really shoot wide angle, but I met Mickey. Do you know Mickey Smith from Ireland?
Yep. I only know
Yeah.
because I heard you talk about him. I looked him up. Yeah, very, very old
Yeah,
school,
yeah,
hardcore.
just a really good guy, and would travel with one camera, one housing, and one lens of 50 mil. And I remember seeing him in the early days at slabs, and he was swimming all day at those places. You know, he's not actually in the impact. Well, he kind of is sometimes, but yeah, just an incredible talent, very creative.
And where you live is kind of like the slab capital of the world, some might say. Margaret River has the box, and you famously have photographed the right. And what was the trajectory to get you to these slabs, or were you right out there because of your talent and your knowledge of these spots?
It sort of got lucky at the time. It was I wanted to shoot a couple of toe surfers just in Margaret River, not really at slabs, but really big bommies. So I was just talking to Courts the other day. I surfed with him in the morning, and we were having a laugh about it because he was out with his tow partner surfing Marg's bommy, and it was a massive day. And I got this housing designed. This is still film days, to put like a 300 mil in there, so I could go out and shoot big waves from the channel. And so we did that. Got a big board, paddled out, and didn't even get the camera out of the bag. I had a backpack on, and a set came through. It was huge and put me on the bottom of the ocean. And then my backpack filled up with water. I took 36 shots inside the bag because the trigger went. Got swept back into the lagoon in the end, and I felt like it was quite a near death experience from drowning. And I got back to the beach and just said, to be able to do this type of work, I need to join in, and got a ski. And so I got the ski, and just fell into it, just by luck, fell into that sort of, I've got a ski, let's go exploring sort of. And when the magazine started, everything was new. I was at the forefront with a couple of others. And so basically anything you point your camera at was getting a run. So I was shooting a lot from the ski with a longer lens back then.
Yeah, I vividly remember I was a college kid here in Wrightsville Beach, and I would see these pictures, and they would blow my mind. And you're out there, you're discovering them. We're in the middle, the early 2000s. Uh, how was that being on the forefront? Was that just an incredible time period looking back? Was that a golden age?
Yeah, it was amazing. But I would take my hat off to a couple of other photographers, and especially the bodyboarders. They seem to explore a little harder than us. I mean, I was only really documenting surfing, and we would find a spot and we'd kind of stick to it. And you want to explore, but the surfers didn't want to miss out on the spot. Where the bodyboarders, they would give up a good day to find another spot, even if obviously you're going to miss out 99% of the time. But it was, and I'm still exploring. I've done a couple of trips last year, but mainly exploring for weird types of water, unsurfable waves. But it's, yeah, it was pretty amazing. And then you get known for shooting slabs because, like I said, all the magazines are running them. And yeah, it's just started getting my name out there from doing that type of work.
Well, as we're on the subject of bodyboarders, Ryan Hardy was on the program a few weeks ago, and I DM'd him, and he gives you a special shout out as to doing something that really takes people to a special place that no one else would be able to see without you delivering them these visuals. And I thought that was a very nice of him to say about your work. Tell us a little bit about you're a surfer. You respect bodyboarders in the United States. There's bodyboarding. It really isn't a big thing because we don't really have the slabs, especially on the East Coast. Tell us about your cultural conviction towards them as far as their gnarliness?
Well, take Ryan for instance. I was out at the ride. I was on the ski. I launched super early because I wanted to shoot empties basically as the sun come up. And next, Ryan's out there paddling. He paddled from the beach. Like, how do you not respect that? Who's doing that? Like, that's just madness. And so I'm like, oh, do you want to get on the ski? And he's like, nah, I'm just going to paddle into a few. So, they talk about all these things that have happened in the past, and that's got to be mentioned, like Ryan paddling from the beach out there and then paddling into the right before even people were talking about it. It is just madness. So you've just got to respect. I sort of found a healthy respect for what people do, like at an early age, like no matter what it is, because unless you do it, you just don't know. Like, I just remember this time when I was through my football days. We went and trained with a really high end football club, Aussie Rules Club, and I thought I was going to blow these guys out of the water. I was that fit. Nah. Yeah, I learned very quickly just my place in the pecking order in running around an oval when I came up against. And I just didn't realize how good these guys were. And that's like anything. You got to just take your hat off to people that excel in any parts of their life, because it's just, it's just mind blowing. Like, I'm like being a critic and sitting in your seat and criticizing someone when you've never done that just doesn't sit well with me.
And one thing Ryan was really talking about was the aesthetic of the right and the feeling of that environment. Take us to the time you first visited this spot. When was it? And how did you feel going into this location?
Well, the first time, well, I'll take you back a little bit further. Where the bodyboarders found it was a weird. I went down the coast. I was shooting the surfers, and we seen the bodyboarders come into town, and we're like, okay, we're going to end up in the same spot again tomorrow. And so we got to this other slab, and they weren't there. We surfed. It was a great day. We got some amazing images. The next day we go back there thinking we'll go to another slab, and we had this lady come down, and she goes, oh, are you the guys surfing out such and such? And I'm like, nah. And so I didn't put two and two together, and thinking, oh, okay, the bodyboarders were somewhere. And then the magazine come out. And so we knew exactly where the spot was as soon as the mag came out, because this lady happened to be walking past. And, this is super remote. And she must have traveled there, and she was watching and basically gave up the spot to us the very next day. And so when the shots come out, we were blown away on how good it was. We couldn't even believe we hadn't found it, because it was so close to so many spots that we'd shot in the past. And that's pretty much been the best find. So then it was just a matter of waiting for another swell, and we ended up being on that. So it was incredible, because a lot of the slabs here that we'd found in the past, there's always something wrong with them. Like, it's either too shallow, or it's got a bubble in it, or it's too dangerous. Was the right? It's dangerous because it's big, but it's surfable compared to some of the other slabs that we've gone to. Like, if you're going to fall off, obviously you're getting flogged, and it's a deep water wave. Like, a lot of the other slabs, you can go there from 1 foot to 10, 15 foot. I'm just talking back. So it's quite big. It's breaking all the time. Whereas the right, it doesn't even break until it gets to like a pretty solid swell. So that's why you can drive past it. Fishermen fish on the right, and you wouldn't even know there's a wave there. And the beaches will be quite solid around it. So yeah, you can miss it easy. But it's it's a special wave for that, because the surfers can really get quite deep there and go pretty hard compared to like a cyclops. Cyclops is just crazy.
Incredible. So when was the first time you heard about the right?
Well, it was that lady on the beach
The lady.
when we
Okay, so
came.
we're talking about the
Yeah,
right here. Okay,
yeah,
because
yeah.
I saw the air
That's the
quotes. I didn't
first.
know if that's where we were talking about.
Yeah, the right was the lady on the beach gave the bodyboarder's position away, and but it was probably it had to be 3 or 4 months until the mag came out, and then that's when we like, oh shit, these guys have found that's where they were. So we knew exactly where they were, and I think that was Whitey and Phil Gallagher. You know Phil from Aquatech,
I do.
and
Yes,
couple of the bodyboarders that were just charging at the time. So we were all sort of competing for spots, looking for spots at during that time, but they found the pinnacle.
in what year is this now?
Oh, I have no idea. It was probably early 2000s.
Incredible.
Yeah, a while ago.
And I just only ask, to put this chronologically in order because Ryan was speaking of this. I think this same period of him going out by himself and actually seeing you. So that's pretty cool cross pollination there. Now, what was the best session you had at that location since then?
Oh, it's a tough one. I haven't been shooting it for maybe the last 3 or 4 years, so I haven't been bothered because it felt like I've done so much there. But the best session, it could have just been like a single session with Paul Antman Patterson and Twiggy Baker. Yeah, we kind of got it on our own, so
And
that
now,
was pretty crazy.
can you speak to that craziness and describe this arena during that situation?
It was just one of those swells where it didn't look like it was going to be on, and Ant Man he seems to be able to call these like swells and winds himself. So he organised the trip on this one. And when we got there, and he got Twiggy over from South Africa, so he's caught it early. And when we got there, it was just a massive, incredibly big day. Like people go, "Oh, this is the biggest day ever." I don't know. Like I've been to a lot, been there a lot, and this was just huge. But Ant Man got a 2 wave hold down at that stage, and pretty much, if it wasn't him, I'd say someone else could have drowned for sure. And just being out there solo, it's just so different. Like you're the only one in the channel, so you're the rescue, you're the eyes, you're the photographer, you're everything, and then just one tow team. That's pretty amazing. And that happened. It happened a couple of times. Happened with Alfie Cater and Dave Dalroy as well. We had a session like that, a really big day where it was just that setup. And I find that kind of special because you're the only one with those shots, and you're the only one that's seen it, which I find amazing because you can go down there now and there's 30 photographers in the channel all shooting the same lens in the same spot. It doesn't feel as good, not to me anyway.
Wow. Like the pioneer aspect of it alone is just absolutely incredible. Um, when you show up on a scene like that, what is the water that you're looking for that really gets you most excited?
Back then, I was just shooting the surfers moments, so it was easy for me. I just wanted to make sure I was safe in the channel and in a good spot where I can get the best images at the time. So, and you can tell straight away when you get there, you're like, oh shit, it's huge. Something's going to be happening. So you're basically just capturing surfers moments. It wasn't until I started trying to swim the place that I was looking for different things. I was looking for, like it's just a total different feeling. Like you'll get there and it's grey and gloomy and massive. I'm not getting in the water, like, because I think I'm going to get eaten. If I've got a feeling where it's just not good, I'm not getting in. Whereas if you're on the ski, you get there, you just start shooting, take the camera out of the case and just pick off anything that moves. So it's just a total different look and feel when you're between shooting off the ski and swimming.
So it sounds like your methodology of how, or your methods of how you attacked the situation evolved and changed. Um, and in the beginning, do I have this right? That the surfer was your main subject, and then the empty waves was an evolution, or did you kind of, how did that process go to you going just into the empty shots that are more aesthetic and some would say artistic?
No, I've always done that. I've always shot empties, like, but it was more the shooting longer lens to wide angle. But yeah, and I prefer to shoot empties than surfers because I just love the look of empties, and I've always done it, especially waves here. They like if you get there early enough, and the slabs, they're just mind blowing, and the sound. The surfers were just a bonus. You could put them in the mag, or you could get published, or you need the surfers to make the money, to be honest, because they have sponsors and sponsors pick them up. And it's more like a job where the empties is like your thing. It's a special thing. You're looking for just different elements. You're looking for textures. You're looking for shape and light, where the surfers, you're just shooting whatever they're doing. Like you have to do what they're doing. They're the athlete, and you're documenting it as well as you can. Whereas the empties, you sort of have the control on what you want to shoot and what you want to get. Like a surfer gets a wave and you miss the slab of his life. It's like the end of the world for them. Like, so you need to be shooting everything, especially those. So that, some of those waves probably are the waves of their life. So you're doing a good as job as you can for those guys. But the empties are always special to me.
They always sit deepest in your heart. And you have a famous movie that came out a number of years ago called One Shot, and I understand it took years to make. Um, First of all, awesome movie, congratulations. I know that probably did a lot as far as like worldwide recognition. It was done so well. How was that, having the cameras around with your family, and then having the process of the film being over the course of such a period of time?
Yeah, it was a learning curve for myself and Darren, the filmer. Well, Darren he only just started filming. That was basically his first project, and I'd met him at like a surf comp where he got employed to shoot the surfing, and he came up and asked for some advice, and I said, "Don't shoot surfing if you want to make money." And then we became friends, and he said, "Did I have any projects?" And I said, "Oh, well, I was looking at swimming down at the right. I've been training for that." And he goes, "Oh, I'd love to, do a little 2-minute, 5-minute clip on YouTube." And then it evolved into that. But yeah, for me and him, our relationship was like, because he was evolving with his work, and, he wanted to reshoot a lot of stuff on better cameras, as you do. And I just wouldn't do it. Like, it's just, this is what happened. It's the story, and they can take it or leave it. So I probably did his head in a few times, but he had a couple of good experiences out at the right shooting, and yeah, it was good for him. So he's done pretty well since then, and he's full-time filmer now, and I love his work. Yeah, he's a really good storyteller.
And what I took away a lot of it was you kind of went from like a mag shooting orientation to an aesthetic water artist orientation. And where in there was the was there like an abrupt change where you're like, all right, I'm fully just going to embrace this water aesthetic and not even worry about what the surfers are doing? Or was it always hand in hand?
Yeah, it was just more like going from shooting every moment to having a moment, really. Like, if you're shooting wide angle, as you know, like if you're on the beach and you're shooting with a 600 mil, you can barely ever miss a shot. You use a 50 mil, you're swimming in the channel, you can miss, you can be out of the spot, you're in rips, you're swimming, and then you're shooting wide angle, you can miss everything. You're just never in the spot. So it was kind of like that. And you've got to look at your work at some stage and go, it just wasn't evolving. Like, I was shooting every single moment from the ski with a 200 mil, 70 to 200. this is not difficult to do. And do you want hard drives full of those shots? And it was, I mean, I just don't want to do it. Like, it's just, I'm not having a moment. It's just boring. So, and it took me a while to figure out that I had to go back to my roots and why did I like surf photography? And we discussed it in the past. It was more the wide angle thing. And I was just like, can you do that here? Can you shoot wide angle at the right? Probably not. You wouldn't think so. And then it just evolved from there. So I would swim at the right, and you'd be swimming for 3 hours, which is a mistake. I learned a lot on the go, and you wouldn't even get a shot. You would miss so much. You'd miss everything. But if you got one shot, is that one shot more special than the 3 million other shots you've got? For me, it is, because you can look back and see effort and see there's a story behind it. And it's not always the best shot. Like, I've got shots that I know that are amazing and are difficult to get. And then I see the 50 mil or the 70 to 200 mil version of the same wave. It's so much better. It looks so good and so big, because the wide angle nearly makes the wave look smaller. Like, I don't know where the transition is. It makes small waves look big and big waves look small. So, but yeah, when you get one of those shots, you are pretty stoked on it. And I've probably got maybe, I don't know, 15 or 20 wide angle shots that are pretty special.
And they're the most unique in the world because of this experimentation that you, the artist, did. It's like a Jackson Pollock dripping for the first time. It sounds like it was like, this thing is new and you're out there doing it. What was that first session like where you swam out with the wide angle? Were you in your mind just like, here we go, this, I don't know what's going to happen, but we're doing this?
It was pretty scary feeling just getting off the ski. You're a long way out. It's renowned for great white. So I remember being pretty fearful, for sure. And I know what fear is, but I still had to get over it. I had to overcome it. But I did get a couple of shots, like borderline images. But I was always a little tentative, I'd say, of trying to swim right in the impact zone. It's such a fine line. Like, you go over the threshold and you're copping bombs on the head. And if you're not close enough, you might as well be sitting on your ski. It's kind of like, have you ever been to Tahiti at Chopes? It's similar to that. Like, you know how close the boats are. They basically, you can nearly be shooting wide angle there and they run you over. It's that kind of fine line. And it's not like you can't handle the wipeouts, because I've had a lot of them there, but it's just it's wherever your fear factor is. Like, to have a really good breath hold and like a wipeout, you need to be relaxed. You need to be able to bring the rev meter back down, and it's quite difficult there because you're pushing boundaries. Like, if I'm out at Margs and it's 10 foot, which is 20 foot or whatever it is, that's kind of comfortable. So the rev meter doesn't go up. But when you're at the right and it's 20 foot and it's 30 foot thick and a wave's coming, you're in the wrong zone. If you don't get that heart rate back down, or you don't start thinking properly, the hold down journey is going to be awful. So it's a real personal challenge on overcoming fear.
Can you bring us to one of those really big hold downs you had at the right? And because I've seen the footage and it's out of control. I mean, the waves that are coming down on top of you are just enormously powerful. Bring us to what that feels like.
Well, I remember the first really bad one where it's not really a wider set, but it was a little wider than normal. And I had Darren there, the filmer. A ski had enough time to go in and pick him up and pick up a few of the photographers that were kind of on the shoulder. That's where it was. So I ended up being right in the zone, like in the middle. I'm done. And I remember thinking, oh, this could be it. Like, this is like going to be the worst hold down I've ever had in my life. And I found I couldn't really get that rev meter back down. Like, I knew what I had to do. I knew what sort of breaths I needed to take. And I had a little bit of time. That's the thing about surfing and photography. You do have time. The surfers, everything is instant. Like you fall off, you haven't had the breath, you haven't had the good breath or anything like that. Whereas I knew I was in trouble, so I got a pretty decent breather and went under, and I felt the pressure and and it just wasn't that bad. it was quite good in the end. It was a really good hold down, but I had breathed up so well, it became pretty basic. And so I got a lot of confidence from that one, because I don't think I've ever been in that position again, in so brutal. Because that's the thing, like I was saying, but I'm only taking the shot when I'm 99% sure I'm going to get something. Other than that, I'm swimming under, or I'm swimming through, or I'm not even bothering. If I'm in the spot and I know I'm going to get the shot, I'll have a crack. And if you go over the falls, and you're going over the falls towards the end of the wave, you're not going over the falls like sometimes where the surfers go down. So it's not that bad. Like I think there's a fine line at the right. If you fall off, you can get churned in the zone. And that's probably just a metre square or 2 meters square. If you're on the other side of that, it will push you down the line. It's a hold down, and it's brutal, but there's levels to it.
What is the breath work that you do in that situation?
So if I give you an example, if you're in front of that wave, your rev meter, you're up, you're going up, your heart rate, you're fearful, instantly fearful, like this could be it. And then you've got to go back into your training. So it's just a matter of, okay, I need to get into relaxation. It's like people getting in an ice bath or something like that. Okay, I need to breathe through this. So I need to just concentrate on my breath. As soon as I concentrate on my breath, I cannot be fearful, because I'm thinking of the breaths coming in. I have, this 15 seconds to do this, and then I'm taking what I call a full lung breath, or a performance breath. So I'm filling up all the chambers and I'm going down, and then I go into like positive mental anchors. So for me, I start listening for sounds and I start putting pictures to it instead of, oh, this is coming. You see it all the time. You see it with surfers out at marks. Oh shit, I'm in trouble. And then the wave comes, they've been panicking. I'm relaxed underwater. I let it do its thing. I come up, and that's the breath hold journey. You can have the worst breath hold journey in the world, or you can have like a meditation journey. And that's where I've got to with my breath holding. And I practice it from 1 foot to anytime I'm in the surf, I'm always practicing this breath hold journey.
And was
And
this
it's
something?
Sorry, you go.
I was going to say, was this something you learned early, or was it over time that you found it?
Well, when I decided to swim with the ride, I started looking for practitioners to train under. So I just wasn't rocket science. You saw what the big wave surfers were doing and just copied them, because that's what I would need. And then like I said, for me, I get that full aspect of it, because I get that 10 or 15 seconds to make decisions, whereas surfers, like, they're out at Jaws and all of a sudden they're off. They have to go into whatever their journey is, and how they're training is instant, whereas I get that little bit of a breathe up. So I find like I'm in a better position than they are. But yeah, so I found it probably 12 or 15 years ago, and I just can't believe crew haven't done that for all parts of their life. It transitions into everything. Like when I was playing rugby league, I never learned how to breathe properly, how to relax, how to, what fear is, or anything like that. Even in the fire brigade, you say you have confined space rescue, you're having trap procedures, you trap, this is what you do. But if you're sucking the life out of your air, you're going to die earlier. That's just the way it is. It's like some people, when they do start scuba and you go down with your scuba instructor, they both go down on the same amount of air, but the new student, after 10 minutes, needs to go up because their alarm's going off because they're out of air. The instructor has barely even sucked any life out of their tank, and it's the same thing with your lungs. So you need to be relaxed in those situations, and it can be for anything. Like you're doing a talk with someone, or you're doing a talk in front of a group, you can get anxious, you can get fearful. Oh, what do they think about me? Or you can just concentrate on your breath, calm down, keep calm, make the breath hold journey a lot better.
Could you do that for us right now and show us how it's done?
So if I'm in front of a wave and I've made the decision, I'm surfing out at Margs and I can't paddle outside, like where I sort of surf in the mid range, so I'm always copping sets. So one guy, he's paddling for the shoulder, even though he will never make the shoulder. So now he's using all his oxygen, his big muscles, whereas I'm just breathing through my nose and exhaling through my nose for tripling the exhale. So I'm just relaxing and I'm not moving. And then I'll take a full lung breath, like, and then I go down just before the wave hits me, push my board out of the wave, let the wave do its thing. I've got a full lung, and then I'm starting to listen for sounds and putting pitches to it. We both come up at the same time. Another wave's coming. So I'm doing the same sort of process. He's used 50% of his oxygen. Now he's in trouble for the second one. Then the third one comes up. By the time I'm coming up, I'm like, oh, this is the best day of my life. I'm so relaxed. So we've done the same journey, whereas my journey was peaceful and his one was in fear. And he's just like using his legs. He's trying to get to the top, whereas I can just relax through it. And that's just through training. I mean, it's I train through shark eyes. We do this we started with big wave surfers and then it sort of evolved into anyone that goes into the ocean. It's quite peaceful, but you can get there.
And I've heard you might even do this before you public speak or even in traffic while you're driving. And
yeah, especially in traffic. I just went up to Perth the other day, and I catch myself all the time. Like it's just a different world. You come from the country to the city, and they're cutting you off and they're beeping at you, and you can get angry, or you can just let it go and just concentrate on your breathing. I think I use it more in traffic than I do in the surf these days.
yeah, that's amazing. I'm sure everyone listening can relate. And in those positions, are you just focusing on the movement, or are you doing a hold?
As in, when I'm driving
Yeah.
or under the water. No, I don't do too many. I just concentrate on the breath going in and out when I'm driving. There's no breath holds when I'm driving.
So
I don't push
all
it.
nasal, no mouth.
Or nasal on the land, yeah. Water, I'll use my mouth, but on land, it's just all nose. So it's a real simple one. If you want to relax, just count your breaths in. And if it's like 3 seconds or, it's nice, slow 3 seconds, just make it 9 seconds out. And it's just that simple. I mean, I'm no guru at it. There's hundreds of different ways to do it. Like I do a lot of different ways where I'll breathe in, I'll hold up the top, I'll exhale like 5 times the length and hold on the bottom. Do that a lot when I go to sleep. There's have you seen that book that came out, Breath?
No.
You got to read it.
Oh no,
He just
I did. I heard it on the radio of the author. I
yeah,
haven't read it. Yep.
yeah, different cultures and different breathings. So it's been around forever. I'm not saying anything that hasn't been done in the past a million times. I just wish I learned it when I was a kid.
Epic. And are you a pool swimmer, a lap swimmer, or is everything in the ocean?
No, everything's in the ocean. I find I'm just not good at swimming in a pool. I find it quite boring. I take my hat off to people that get up in the morning, especially Olympic swimmers, and just do laps and go hard. Yeah, no, I just prefer to be active. I'll go for a surf. Sometimes I'll go for a swim down the beach if it's super flat, but I'll tend to like go free diving or diving than having a swim, go and get some dinner or something like that. Make it a little bit more active.
Epic, dude. So I want to contrast the depth of the right to your time spent in Tahiti you mentioned earlier, and how the two bottoms of the surface there change your feeling and your ability to shoot in those locations.
Yeah, I'm more fearful of chopes on a big day for sure. because it's not really a breath hold journey. It's like a journey of bouncing off the bottom in sharp coral. It's just a different wave. So yeah, it's just so shallow. Like, it's just totally different. So I take my hat off to all those guys getting amazing shots there. I mean, I've had a couple there, which I'm pretty proud of, but it's when it gets to sort of toe size, you're really pushing it if you're shooting wide angle there, because you're going over the falls and you're getting bounced. There's no real breath hold journey. I mean, it's probably not as violent as the right. Oh, it's hard to say. But when you're getting bounced off the bottom, that just changes everything for me. You got to be. I've got bounced off a lot of reefs around here. It's difficult.
What was that like, getting bounced in Tahiti, and like, where were you sitting?
Well, I've got Dom over there, Dominic Mascara.
Oh yes,
the local photographer, really
yep.
Incredible guy. Like, he's one of my favorite photographers and people. He's just an amazing bloke. So I've had a lot of, you go over there and you start working with crew like that, they can give you some advice. It's interesting, but you always need to push your own boundaries, whatever they are. And it just depends what sort of work you're doing. Like, if I'm going over there to shoot personal stuff, if I was, I'd probably shoot it a little bit different. But if I'm going over there, if I'm working for, well, I'm not working for any mags these days, but if you're working for a magazine or a brand, you need to be able to shoot what they want, the style they want for their branding and stuff like that. So I know Dom, he's got like millions of different types of images from Tahiti, and they're pretty special.
And you've also been to Pipeline. You've shot Pipeline. Tell us about what it was like going to Hawaii for the first time, and did that kind of like give you some chops, or were you already feeling proficient when you entered that arena?
I went there for Quicksilver, like Quicksilver Australia, and I remember they had like not quite an eddy swell the day before. I think a lot of guys went to Jaws, and so the next day at Pipe was quite solid, and I swam back door and got a couple of good shots. But it's a hard yard. It's like there's a lot of crew there shooting, and it's their spot, so I have a lot of respect for the locals. I remember just on a day where basically anyone could swim, I ended up getting a pretty decent shot, and just using the photographers as part of the image, like doing splits. That was pretty good. You're not going to go out at Pipe. It's like, it'd be like surfing it. It's kind of like that with the photographers. You're not going to go to Pipe and then start shooting in front of everyone under the lit. I don't know if that was my spot, and I've had words with photographers say at the box that they're trying to tell me I can't do this and can't do that. And I'm like, I live up the road. I can pretty much, I've been here for 20 years. I can do that. And that's kind of like Pipe. You get that feeling where they put you back in the pecking order. And so you just go with the flow and enjoy what it has to offer. Because there's, the whole world is watching Pipe. So there's a lot of crew shooting and a lot of crew surfing. So they're going to have their own challenges for sure. So, you got the Zach Noyles and the Brian and the Brett Billmans and stuff like that, who are just incredible water crew as well. Like, you're not going to push in front of those guys. And I wouldn't do it anyway.
And what was that like, getting off the plane the first time, going over the hill, smelling the smell, hearing the chickens? What were you just like full of stoke? Did you have anxiety about getting the shot because you were there with Quicksilver? And kind of, what was your mentality?
I was pretty lucky at that time. They took 2 photographers. So I had Jolly. It might have been for Trax Mag as well. So my job was a lot different than Jolly's, which was good. So Jolly's, his brief would have been like the competition and every single moment, whereas I could shoot everything around it. Like, so I didn't have to concentrate on that. So that gave me that sort of freedom to do what I wanted. I mean, Jolly had the freedom to do that too, but he definitely needed to. I'm trying to think what happened that year. he had to get the moments of, say, Mick had won and coming up the beach and all that stuff, whereas I didn't have those pressures. Jolly had the harder job. I could just sort of do whatever I wanted, go and shoot a free surf and go and swim. And if I didn't get the shot, it didn't matter because I knew Jolly was getting it. So it was good.
Was pipe at that time the place you went, or were you like into off the wall or some other of the spots around that?
Yeah, I just sort of roamed, but I was concentrating on pipe when it was good and got it. It wasn't out of control, crazy size, so it wasn't that difficult. One day was, and but apart from that, it was just a good feeling of being out there and meeting other crew, other photographers that are trying to make a living, because there's a lot there, and they all do incredible work. But I tried to swim Sunset once. That didn't go that well. There's a lot of current there. Have you swam there?
Yeah, I almost died there one time. I got saved by a lifeguard. It was 20 foot, and I should have been out. And I got a brand new housing, the one behind me, that's retired, and it was like 2006, and it was just a
Yeah.
terrible, terrible, terrible time. Yeah, got held down 3 times. The whole lineup got washed out. I thought I was going to die. A lifeguard came out, very, very awesome guy. We both paddled to the beach, and then his captain came up and just proceeded to just chew me out. And I was just thankful that I was breathing it on the beach, so I took it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to do that at Waimea on a swell. I went down there and I was just going to shoot 50, and I watched it like I always watch the surf before and see what it's like. And I watched this lifeguard who was incredibly fit and amazing swimmer, no housing with flippers, struggling to get in. Didn't get in the first time in the corner, did a massive loop, basically body surfed a smaller one and got pushed in the corner and just went, nah, I'll be getting rescued if I come out here. Because just like what happened to you.
Well,
At least you got
dude, I was out there the previous year, and I had this little box water housing, and I was killing Sunset swimming out there. And it was like 10 foot, and I got great footage of like some classic dudes. Yeah, and I thought I was the man. And then I bought my new housing, and I went out there, and this was, when Hawaii's rainy and you can't get anything. It was like that kind of trip. And yeah, so I got smoked, and it took me like 2 more years to like even paddle out at Sunset. And even then I just was like hurting. But I'm not as hard as you, and I would like to know, like, what's your story that it was like the most gnarly, where you're like, I nearly died?
Yeah, I mentioned that time where I paddled out with the surfboard and shot that tow team. That was pretty close, and I hadn't had any training up until that point. It was just more off the cuff. So I got pretty close there, and I remember being on the bottom going, I need to drop this backpack and loose the camera, because I'm not going to get up. The backpack filled with water. It was like a weight belt. And then I started spewing a bit of salt water when I came up. So I was pretty close at that time. Photography wise, apart from that, that's got to be the closest. And I've had a day out at Margs prior to training, where I was copping a few on the head, where I was like, God, if there's 1 or 2 more, I could be in trouble. But apart from that, it's been pretty good, especially since the training. The training is everything. That, like I said, makes that breath hold journey so much easier.
So it's the training, knowing your limits, and I think that's just like the key words of wisdom to everybody.
Yeah, definitely knowing your limits and when to push them is important. You've got to push your limits so you grow. So you're always going to put yourself in a little bit of a situation, whatever that means for you, like, going out at sunset at that size. I'm sure your heart rate was going, and not sort of crossing the T's and dotting the I's, I call it. So if you've got a goal, you got to work towards it. Like when I swam the right and did all that, that was a build up of probably 20 years of ocean experience and 15 years. I could already swim at North Point like it was a walk in the park, like maxing North Point, closing out, not a big deal. Like I wouldn't jump from a 2 foot beach here to a 20 foot right, because you're going to be out of your league for just to get a shot for social media, you'll die. Like you've got to, like surfing, you start as a kid surfing the whitewash, 1 foot, 2 foot, and you progress until you don't. And some people just keep progressing until they're surfing. Look what they're doing now. It's mind blowing, like paddling into jaws and stuff like that. It's how do you get to that level? You need to build up to it. There's no, you can't jump. You just can't jump into it. It's just a full build up.
So most of your full catalog, what was it created post when you kind of like stepped away from the mags and were focused on the slabs, or how did you build what you have today?
Just over time, I'm always shooting, even with the magazines, like I said before, you're shooting empties and you're shooting lifestyle. And now it's mainly just trying to focus on weird parts of the water. I'm just still trying to find different parts of the ocean to shoot, and not so much surface. But yeah, it's just a build up over time. It's just evolved. You can see, like you see your early work, and it just changes. You start seeing different things in the ocean to shoot. And plus I have a gallery here in Marg, so I've kind of, I'm shooting a lot of textures and color that maybe I wasn't looking for in the past. So that's good. Makes you look at things differently. For photography, I feel like I have a foundation for kids. So, and they start shooting, and even they've said, when they've got the camera, they start looking at things differently. That might be a good photo. It's quite a good feeling. It takes you back to the early days. That'd be, you drive past a tree and you think, I've got to get a shot of that. Looks good. That's where the ocean is at for me at the moment. So I'll tend to do a couple of solo trips down the coast and see if I can find some weird water to shoot. And if I don't, it doesn't matter because it's just a good feeling.
I love that term you coined, weird water. And what is it about the water that makes you just explode when you see that file? I guess describe the colors, the textures that just unload in your heart.
Yeah, it's weird because you could find, like, you could drive to Cyclops. You're familiar with Cyclops and shoot some, like, that just does something different every time. But you drive past a lot of different waves that you might have not shot in the past, and so yeah, I'm just looking for that perfect light and the perfect balance between the ocean and the wind and the swell, and see if I can be in the right place at the right time. It's just when you're on your own and you don't have any distractions, it's a good thinking time too. Like, you're not under pressure. You're shooting for yourself. If you don't get it, it doesn't matter. Come back another day. So yeah, that's the sort of place I'm in at the moment. And it's just nice to get away, get off the grid, get off the phone. I start having most of my growth during those times because obviously I've got no distractions. So you can get bored if you're not shooting in the ocean or not doing surf stuff. So it's just the feeling of photography. That's the best part these days. I mean, I still would like to push a few things, but I haven't got any goals to capture anything of essence, I would say, at the moment. There's nothing on the radar. I did have something on the radar, which I won't go into, and then I just copped an injury going too hard, and it put me out for a couple of years, and now I just don't know if I could do it.
But you can't say what that is.
Well, I can say it. I was thinking Jaws end bowl with a fisheye quite a while ago. So I was making a lot of inquiries with a couple of mates over there, but I've seen a 50 mil shot. I just thought a paddle shot of Jaws, fisheye, end bowl, someone on a 10-foot board would be quite special. And I don't know, I could get there and just go, no way in the world that's happening. You're getting swept in the zone, and you've got to be responsible. You don't want to be getting saved every second. You've got to be responsible for your own actions. Can it be done? I'm not too sure. And it probably has been done. I'm just out of the loop. But so, because for me, it's just, I'm not claiming to be first at anything because it's probably been done in the past, probably been done years ago. I just haven't seen it. It's more of a feeling for myself. And I still wanted to do Mavericks as well, but it's, yeah, that's definitely off the radar. It's just hard to do it. I went there twice to do it, and it was never really, just the wrong feeling. I just like, oh, I'll probably die doing this.
What about, say, more famous slab waves that Mulgamore comes to mind, uh, the Rileys possibly in Ireland, waves that aren't, I guess, known for their size like a Nazare, but a thick slab that you're very accustomed to. Are those tantalizing?
Yeah, I love the light of some of those. I'd definitely go over and try to shoot some textures or empties over there and meet the crew. I know a lot of Irish crew and Scottish crew, and they're just great. You know, they're just loving life. So it'll be more the experience for that. And if I get a few waves, it'll be a bonus. But yeah, it's nothing on the radar. I mean, we've got a lot of slabs here, and there's a lot of slabs that you can go and find as well down the coast. So there's heaps. And you can be on your own, you know. So it's totally different. But yeah, I would love to get over there and just sort of hang out with the crew that surf it.
Epic. And I love what you're saying about the process of just going out. And what kind of came to my mind is, do you ever talk to yourself as in like, oh, I kind of know what it's going to be like, I'm not going to go, and then maybe have regret, or times where you're like, no, I'm going no matter what, even though I think it might be cloudy, but it might clear up. Like, how do you schedule your mindset for those processes?
I think you just got to work with what you've got. Like if you've got 2 weeks off and you've set that time, you just go and do it no matter what. Like I don't have the fear of missing out. Like I know a lot of crew here or photographers that are still shooting exactly the same thing they were doing 10 or 15 years ago. And if a swell's coming, they need to get there. The fear of missing out is unbelievable. Whereas I'd rather go and try to find something else. And if I don't find anything, I just feel like that journey just feels so much better than shooting the same stuff as everyone else is shooting. It's like I take my hat off to the crew that are shooting pipe. Like, how do you get the energy to shoot it sometimes when you're standing next to 10 other people shooting the same thing with the same lens? It's like, I don't know, I find that quite boring and difficult. I'd find that difficult. And I know they're making a living. I know they're working, so they have to do it. But I'm in a position where I just don't have to do that anymore. I'm doing other parts of photography for my life, and it's and I'm enjoying that.
And I've heard you say that it's really the story you love telling the most, and even the backstory behind the photos that you're putting out. What makes a great story in your mind?
Everyone's got a story. You just got to spend time to listen to them and talk to them. Like everyone has a story, so I find it kind of super inspirational what have people go through to achieve what they do. Like I did a job yesterday I was up in Perth, and my mate's got a company called Banfield. Won't go into it, but one of the fighters that uses is Jack Della Maladona. Have you heard of him? He's from Perth. He's fights in the UFC. I think he's fighting Gilbert Burns in about 2 weeks. So he's no slouch. Like he
And
can fight.
what's his name?
Jack Della Maladona. he's got a yeah, JDM. But you know, it's the first time I ever got to meet him. I would never meet a person like that and get to talk to them about their story without photography. And that's just an example that's come to mind. And you know, and finding out his mindset. Like imagine what he has to go through to get to where he has done. Like people like critics and people that work in the media criticizing, you know, people such as fighters, they're the 1%. Like if you're in the UFC, you can fight. Like you're incredible. You might not be the world champ, but you're up there and you've got a journey. I just don't criticize people like that because I know I can't do it and I have no ambition to do it, especially at my age. But to see someone like him from Perth, it's just a gym out in an industrial area. He's helping other crew and he's about to go over to America to fight someone for the UFC. It's just mind boggling. And then they've got guys that are in the gym that I was watching that are working their asses off to fight in like the local league or whatever you want. It's such a journey and you get to meet people like that through photography. And I'm just more interested in how they get there because it just doesn't happen overnight for anyone.
Absolutely.
I don't know. Is there such a freak? I don't think so. When you break it down, everyone's achieved something by that journey. And the journey is the most important part. You'll have a goal and then you get to the goal and you think, oh, is that it? But when you reflect on the journey to it, that's the amazing part. It was the same thing when I got that shot at the riot. It's like, that was great for about 3 hours. Well, what's next? You got to come up with what's next. It's not really that big a deal. But when you think about what you went through to get to it, that's the important part for me.
Great wisdom. And what next? Desert Light Foundation is your foundation. How did that come about?
Yeah, it sort of come about by accident. I have a couple of close friends I work with, Quinn and Susie Beardman, and they have a foundation for music, and they've been doing that for like 10 years. And Quinn wanted me to come up and document what he did for his website, for content. And it's pretty much exactly what he's taken music to these kids to entice them to come to school. And music's so much fun. And so I went up and started working with him, documenting what he'd done. And then on the side, started teaching photography to the kids that weren't involved in the music. They'd be sitting in the corner, they're quiet, go up to them, do you want to hold the camera? And then just started seeing what the kids did. Like, I'm trying to get photos of these kids and, they're a little bit reserved. They've only just met me. Give a camera to one of their mates and see how they go. They start going crazy on the drums. I'm like, where was my shot for that? And so I did that for quite a few years. And I wanted to incorporate photography into his charity. And he just turned around one day and said, look, I think you've got something here. The teachers want you to come up, teach the kids, or come into schools where kids have had a pretty hard start to life. And so it just evolved into it. And me and my wife run the foundation now. So I was just at a school the other day. It's pretty good. Yeah, do that 3 or 4 days a week, working, and they're just it's pretty basic. Like, there's the trigger, you can press the button, and then it evolves, and then the kids start learning. And I'm trying to get in with an older group where you're more of a mentor and they really want to take photography to another level. So if we can introduce that to the foundation the next 6 months, that'll be good. But it takes you back when you start, because the kids are so stoked on it. And some of the kids, they'll take a shot, it'll be totally overexposed or underexposed. It'll be black, or the whole screen will be white. And they're like, yeah, that's the one I want to print. I'm like, well, that's good. You can print this one. There's no right or wrong, really, is there? That's what they like. Just because I like a photo doesn't mean they like my shots. And I do a little bit of breath work with them as well, just sort of introduce them. Like, this is the kind of work I do. And what's the hardest part about getting this surf shot? And, they'll come up with all different things. I said, what about holding your breath and learning how to breathe? So you can sneak that into it as well, because they don't learn that, they don't learn how to control their emotions by breathing, whereas we can. We're a bit older. They just never had the tools.
Incredible. So you're going in the local area in Western Australia, or are you going outside and kind of, are you going to the school multiple times, or is it kind of a one-time shot? I'm interested in this.
Yeah, no, not a one time. Sorry. Yeah, I'm in about 4 or 5 schools. So I go there 4 or 5 times a term at each school. So drive up. Like there's not much around here that I've got involved in yet. I am going to introduce that, but so a couple of schools in Perth, one out in the country, one up at north, and then Quinn has quite a few schools for his music foundation, and I'll tag along with him on the occasional time too. So that might be a one-off to see how it goes. But the other schools I'm in, it's they're all on a program. They've all got different programs, and they've all got different needs. So I just work with them. And I'm not a teacher. I'm just more like a semi-mentor. Could be an excuse for them to get out of maths and English.
And what is the one thing that you try to drive home most when you do this teaching?
Basically, you can do anything in life, really. Like they don't have that. I don't think that's in their repertoire at the moment. Like they wouldn't even be thinking that they could be a photographer, or I don't want them to be a photographer. It's not the point. I just like they can do anything if they put their mind to it. And that's where and so I use, I'm documenting this person's life. He's a fighter. I've documented that person's life. They're a doctor. Look what they can do. This is where they started from. So you basically need to change the narrative of what they believe, because they do come from some broken homes and unforeseen circumstances. So, their beliefs might have been smashed out of them. Who knows? The teachers are doing an amazing job. It's just like, if you've got kids, you want to introduce them to like people that can start influencing them or making them believe they can do anything. It's basically that. And camera's just the tool to do it.
And you have three kids?
Yeah, I got 3 kids. One just turned 24. They're not really kids. And then I've got Tavian. He's Kalani. Tavian's just turned 21. He does filming, does video work, extremely good at what he does. Hates shooting surfing though. And then I've got a daughter that's 16 going on 26. She's good as well. She's very fiery like her older brother. But they're all good. They're all pretty focused at what they do. Really good kids. And that's more because the mum's good, real good.
And you raised them as surfers, and how did they take to it?
No raising as surfers. Just I didn't want to push any of my stuff onto them. Kalani surfs, he runs, he boxes. The oldest does all the sports. He was a skateboarder, got into surfing from when we did a trip to the US. I was never pushing him into anything. I want them to find their journey. I'm not a big fan of what I call the soccer dad, where they pick a sport for their kid, they film them, sometimes you can tell the kid's not happy with what they're doing. If the kid's happy to do it, that's fine. But I just want them to find their own journey. It's the same as Tavian. He's a skateboarder, picked up a camera, and he loves to film. That's not because of me. That's what he found, and my daughter will find what she wants to do too. So I'm just happy they just got to find what makes them feel good. I just don't. I don't want. You see a lot of kids burn out because, I mean, to make it, you basic like if you want your kid to be a pro golfer, you're going to be having to hit the ball at a pretty early age, really. But those kids tend to love it. If they love going to the golf course and they love playing golf with their friends, so be it. They'll become pro golfers probably. But for mine, it was just my kids found things later on in life and they're good at what they do. Yeah.
And was this always your mentality, or did you discover it along the way as a father?
Well, you can be out in the surf and there might be a couple of kids out there and they're getting filmed because they're getting pushed out there, and you can just tell they're not in a good place. They don't want to be there. They're getting forced into it. That's in every sport. I'm not just surfing. I've seen that. I remember seeing that when I was playing league and I was walking to training, and I think it would have been like under 12 soccer. And I was just watching as I was going past, and this goalkeeper let a goal in. The goal's huge compared to a 12-year-old. No, I wouldn't have saved it. And this dad was just roasting this kid. I was about 20 at the time, roasting him for letting this goal in. You can do this, you can do that. And then the dad left, and I said to the kid, look, I wouldn't have saved that, good effort. And he started to smile. So I learned that at an early age, that I don't want to be like that. Like, I wonder what that kid's doing now, Maybe he is. He's probably playing for Australia. He's probably the goalkeeper for Australia. But it's, I just didn't want to be that person. It's and you see that, like I said, in every single sport. If you're around a sport, rugby league have it. Every single sport has it. Like, it's like the dad. I'm picking on the dads. There's probably mums. There's definitely mums there as well. They've never done it in their life, so they're forcing the kids to do it. That's how I feel. But sometimes the dad maybe will know what it takes to become an elite level. So it's a catch-22.
Well, thank you for that advice. I have a 3-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 12-year-old, and it's
that's a good gap.
Yeah, it's a special time. But like, I love surfing. I'm not originally from the beach, so here we are at the beach now, and I'm like, guys, this is it. But I need to remind myself a lot that, like, they need to find this stoke in themselves. And yeah.
They'll tend to find the stoke because you've got the stoke. You're going down. Do they surf?
They all do, except for the 4-year-old. He'll get out there someday. But the other two, they can paddle into their own waves. So from here on, I feel I've done my job. And like last summer, my daughter was like, "Come on, let's get out there." And like, I felt like I was pushing her too much. It was almost like giving it out. And so I've taken this new mentality the last 12 months of like, there's the board. If you want to do it, do it. And she's kind of found cross country running as her own thing, and I'm drive her to it every day, supportive, and that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, they do need a little bit of a push, but it's a fine line, isn't it? It's a tough. As a parent, there's no book to this is how you do it. You got to just learn on the run, especially the oldest. Well, I say to my oldest, I've seen it to him for years. Like, he's got the hardest. Yeah, we picked on you the most. You're the first. We were 25. Like, we had no idea how to raise a kid. Then we got a better idea on Tavian, what we thought was a better idea, but that might not work on him, and then that might not work on the daughter. So we're evolving as well. So it's just the way it is. I'd say to him, it's the way it is. You're like the guinea pig. You're the first kid.
Yeah, the middle. Is there a middle child like thing going on with your middle child too? Like, was there any of that as far as rebellious?
No, I don't think so. My boys just went to Japan snowboarding together, and that's their second or third trip there. And so they just traveled. Not really, I don't think. It's no, they've all done. I think we're a little looser with the daughter because you tend to relax as a parent on your third one because you've done it twice before. That's just human nature. No, I don't know if there's a middle child thing. I'd have to ask you. I'll ask him next time. Do you feel like you never got the attention because the oldest got it, or the youngest?
Yeah.
No, he's doing extremely well with his filmmaking. So who knows? Never asked him direct. Actually, good question.
All right. Hey, and thank you so much for spending all this time. And before I let you go into the surf, I got to talk to you about your gallery. How did that come about, and have you noticed it be like a big uptick in your work and your notoriety as an artist? And tell us a little bit about your gallery and how you got there and what it's all about.
Well, it was just timing for us. Like, we definitely weren't looking at doing a gallery. I was out in the surf. I surfed with the winemaker from here. I'm on a winery. And he said to me out of the blue, like, do you want to do a gallery? We've got an old shed that we don't want to knock down. And they're doing it. At that stage, they were doing a new build for the cellar door. And I was like, no, I don't want to do a gallery. That's one thing I definitely don't want to do, like a studio or anything like that. But I do need an office because we live in the bush in a small house. So, and then he goes, yeah, we can do a couple of offices. We'll look at, and if they were going to look after us and it wasn't too crazy, I would do it because it's the perfect. I'm in here now. I'm in my office. It's the perfect place to come to work. And so, yeah, it just evolved from that. So we opened up the same time as the Shot Ord did, and I love being around this kind of environment. Like sometimes you might not have that many people. It's not like you get foot traffic out here because we're out in the country. We're nowhere near anything. So people have to come to the winery and then they tend to come to the gallery. But you definitely meet a different range of people. We're certainly evolving. Like when we start selling some work and we didn't know it was going to work, you see what people actually are attracted to. And it's good they're attracted to a lot of the stuff I'm attracted to with colors and light and textures. So that's been good. And yeah, it's just if you call it a factor, it's saying you have your own gallery is quite special. We don't do enough marketing. We're just learning on the ropes. So we've only been open for about a year. They're just about to build a restaurant here too. So we're going to see a range of different people. And you can use the gallery as, like, I've got the foundation, but I still need to do a little bit of commercial work on the side. So you're meeting people that come in and you can start talking to them. They might have a brand that you can work for. And so it works well for that. But surf wise, I'm not even shooting any really surfing. Occasionally the brand things or a portrait here and there for a mag, but apart from that, it's not like I'm on the run trying to hunt surfing. But the gallery's been good, and it's good to see. Like every photographer should, even just for their own home, is enlarging a piece to, like, because all the pieces I have in here, I'm only doing them once, the big pieces. So, and they're solid. 150. I'd have to talk in inches of 60 inches, 80 inches, and once that person gets that piece, I never do it again. It's kind of special because that's what the ocean to me does. Like that wave will never be done again. Why should I do it 50 times in the gallery? And it forces me to go and find different parts of the ocean to shoot as well. So it's been good for that. It's kind of like this ongoing personal project, but it's semi a business as well.
That's incredible to me. So you have a large catalog, but how much of your catalog have you sold out of your space, or is this just now, like you said, forcing you to pop new work on the wall?
Well, I'll go and look for new work, and I'm shooting with like medium formats in a water housing. So I'm looking at different detail and being able to blow up to enlarge so people can walk up to the piece and see every little speck. So it changes the way you shoot a bit, and especially the medium formats are quite slow in the water. But I've probably sold, I don't know, 15, 16 major pieces. So it's not a big deal. It's like it's a glorified office. If we can sell a bit more, it would definitely help with rent. That'd be good, but it's not a big deal if it doesn't. So I've got a big catalogue, but I personally get bored of it because I've seen it. So I want to go and shoot other stuff, and you kind of got to sit on it for a little bit too, because you might get something that on the day you think, oh, that's incredible, but is it going to be incredible tomorrow, or is it going to be incredible next week? So it's quite good, and I've been doing a little bit lately, and it takes you back. It's a good feeling because I've been swimming out to Main Break, which is a fair swim at Margs, out in the dark, and trying to catch speed blues. I should swim out to the box. I haven't swum out to the box for a while, probably early last year.
And are you experimenting with flash at all during these times?
Yeah, I have experimented with flash. I just did a job for Fujifilm, like a campaign, so I used the flash there. But it's off-camera flash, so I need another swimmer, so it makes it a bit harder. I'll get my son to do it most of the time, so it's been good. I've had one on the wall that hasn't sold that I was swimming and we got the flash on the jet ski, so that was pretty good. That one turned out well. So you get to experiment, and it doesn't really matter if it doesn't work out. just go back to the drawing board and figure it out.
So you're only doing off-camera flash,
Yeah,
no on camera.
yeah. No on camera flash, nah.
Is there a reason?
Oh, it just allows me to do different things, put the flash in different positions and try different things. And I've always done that. That's what I did for Fuji this last campaign, off camera flash, but I was working with an athlete, with a surfer as well. So you can backlight them, you put the flash wherever you want. It's good. Doesn't have to be with me.
Epic. And what are you printing on for your pieces? The medium.
Well, we did a lot of stuff at the start, and I was quite surprised about canvas, like framed canvas, floating frame canvas has been probably the winner. They're light, they look good, the prints are great. I prefer to have a print behind non-reflective glass, framed, looks good. It's quite heavy though. But yeah, the canvas has done pretty well.
Love it.
Because I wasn't a big fan of canvas. I did a few in the early days and I thought they looked shit. But now, just with technology, and they look mint, like lots of detail.
And are you printing there, or you have a supplier there in Perth?
No, I have a lab, Fitzgerald's Photo Lab in Perth. I've been with them for like 22 years, 23 years. I'd love to kind of do a bit of my stuff, but I don't have any problems. Like, I'd rather pay more for the quality, and those guys have evolved with technology as well. Like, they're printing on, millions of dollars of machinery, and they've got the framing. I have none of those headaches. This is my image. This is what I want, and I get the final product. Yeah, it's more expensive because you're paying for quality, but it's worth it. And and they employ 10, 15 people, who knows, so that's good too. And a lot of people use them. It's I've got my own printer for smaller stuff, but it's tiny, no large scale.
Have you seen any of the sublimation, the ink sublimation on to aluminum, where they print it in reverse and then it comes out? And what do you think about that?
Yeah, all the products look good for sure. There's so many things we want to explore. We're just about to do quite a big piece. It's a collaboration with a steel artist, so it's metal and glass. So I'm printing something about 3 meters, which is 300 centimeters. Don't know what that is in inches tall. It's quite big. It's about 1.5 stories tall on glass, and he's encasing it in a metal frame. So that should be interesting. But it's there's so many amazing products out there. It's just like, you know what it's like. It's not cheap to do, and you're taking a gamble just because you like it. It could sit on the wall for a year. No one else likes it. No one knows the story behind it. No one cares. That looks good with my sofa. That's what it needs to be.
Yep, I know this well. Russell, dude, again, I cannot thank you enough. I have one final question. What is the meaning of life?
What's the meaning of life? It's a tough one. That is a super tough one. I think just the experience what you can, and enjoy as much as you can. Take a few chances, and just experience what life has to offer, and do it now, because there might not be a tomorrow. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I've seen it firsthand. Like, you can have the best life in the world, and that might be gone tomorrow. It's that quick. So if you want to go around Australia in a camper van, and you want to do that when you retire from work in 25 years, change tack. Get the camper van, get in it, and go.
Russell Ord, I cannot thank you enough for your time here. You've totally enlightened us all, and we cannot thank you enough.
I probably rambled on a bit. Sorry about that.
Bro,
Probably a few No, cheers for having me.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. time,
Bro,
and it's a great platform you're running. It takes a lot of work to run a podcast. I wanted to do a podcast with Warren Keelan, and I think we interviewed one person, and
what an epic podcast that was. We thank Russell Ord so much for joining us and delivering such amazing content. If you found this podcast enjoyable, please like and subscribe to Speaking From Water on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Again, this podcast was simulcast on a classic media network. We're happy to be involved with a classic, and we encourage you to find them on Instagram and all social channels, including TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you have a great day wherever you are, whenever you're listening. Peace.